Timmer here with TLC Pressure Washing, and let's talk a little bit about freezing weather and what you use to keep you from slipping. And what you'll find is all the time around this time you'll find concrete companies going, oh, you shouldn't use this on your concrete, it'll damage it, this will damage it, that'll damage it, etc., etc., etc. And yes, it will. We have to use some kind of salt melt. It's kind of a catch-22, because you don't want to slip down a ramp or on the concrete, so you're gonna have to put something down there in order to get traction, or melt the snow and the ice so you can get traction. So it's kind of a danged if you do, danged if you don't type deal. But and most everything you use will cause damage to concrete. It attacks the binders that binds concrete together, and of course then you won't notice it when you put it down, especially if it's new concrete, but later on in the year when you start driving over it, or you start washing it, your concrete driveway or your steps or something, you'll see it starting to pit up. So what can you do? We had ice the other day, and of course we had to put salt here, and you can even see where the salt has been grinded in, and it's starting to etch away and eat on the concrete right there. It looks strange right there. So what can you do? You're gonna have to use something, but the biggest thing you can do now, there's a lot of different things you can use. There's salt melt, which is usually calcium chloride, magnesium chloride, things like that. Then old-fashioned ice cream, rock salt, is salt. You could use table salt if you had to. I've used table salt before in a pinch because it didn't have any ice melt. You can use any kind of a brine, like old bleach, which is bleach breaks down to salts. Sodium hypochlorite, sodium is salt, so you could use that to help melt. You can also use pickle juice, because that's a salt brine on most pickle juices. So if you like pickles, save the juice and you can spray, and you'll have nice smelling snow and ice. But anyway, so what you've got here is you've got this, and then you have to do something. The second it gets warm enough, that's when you want to start taking care of it and get this off of your concrete, so that it minimizes the damage. If I leave this on here for hours and hours and days and days and days and wait for the next rain, it's going to take a long time. That rain is going to slowly melt that, and it's going to drop right into the concrete and do the damage that we're talking about. So a couple different ways you can get this off of here. Of course, if it's warm enough that you can wet it, which we're going to have to anyway, you can just spray it off with a pressure washer or a hose or something like that. You can turn around and grab a trusty dusty broom, and you can sweep it off your concrete. That's one way, and that gets it off the concrete into someplace else. You could take one of these fancy dancy blowers and that's a whole lot quicker. And that's a whole lot quicker to get that salt off. But once you've done that, what you're going to want to do is, if you can't neutralize the salt, or don't know how to neutralize the salt, you definitely need to rinse this off. So it is now about 35 degrees out. It went down to 12 last night. So I got the hose pipe. It's defrosted enough that I can rinse the salt off here. So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to rinse the salt off and try to get it off as soon as I possibly can after any kind of a snow event or event where you had the salt. I want to get that off. And of course this will come down and be pulled down on wind. So I want to rinse this off so that when it melts, it doesn't just drop onto the concrete and start damaging the concrete. You can tell it's got still some ice in the line because it's sputtering. So one thing I hate is on Facebook, you see these concrete companies make posts about, oh, it's bad for this, and here's a picture of what it did, and things like that. But they never tell you something you can use as an alternative that won't damage the concrete. You can at some points use sand. Sand sits on top of the ice and gives you some grip, but then once it melts a little bit, goes down into the ice, and then the next night refreezes, it's no longer on top, so it's now on bottom, and you're back to the same thing. You could use a mixture of sand and ice melt, or sand and salt, to help give you some immediate traction, and then help melt a little bit so you're not using as much of what damages your concrete. Different things like that can help. You're going to have to use something so that you're not sitting on the flat of your back at the hospital after falling and sliding down the steps or and hurting yourself. So this is one way you can help mitigate some of the damage caused by salt. The second you can get this off of your concrete, the better. So today was the first day it's been 35 degrees for a while. Got the hose pipe out in the sun, melted it enough, blew it off, sprayed it off. I've gotten that salt off there, and I'm gonna spray it off quite a bit, because once you start wetting the salt, it's going to start melting. Melting goes down into the concrete. Concrete is porous. It's going to go deeper into the concrete and cause an issue. So I want to flush it quite a bit and make sure I flush it enough. Now I have to be careful, because if turn around and in 2 hours it's going to drop down to 34, it's going to be an ice skating rink. So I do have to be careful of that. This is in the sun. I'm rinsing it off. It's going to try to dry. I might use the blower and blow as much of the excess moisture off after I flushed it, so that way that it dries quicker and doesn't freeze tonight. But anyway, just something to think about. If you see those posts on Facebook that never tells you what you can use, there's a few things you're going to use and it's going to damage concrete. There's not much out there that won't really and effectively work. The things that claim they do doesn't really work that good. The better, the stuff that works the best is going to, cause damage to the animal paws and damage can pit concrete, but it is what it is. But anyway, hopefully that'll help you a little bit and give you some alternatives to help keep you from damaging your concrete as quickly or as much during these cold frost freeze thaws and refreezes and things like that. Tim Moore, TLC Pressure.